Hi guys, it's Miss Monica. I'm ready for chapter 2 of Charlotte's Web. I was thinking you guys might could listen to this at bedtime because it's a great story. If you missed the first chapter, it's also on my YouTube channel. Now this time I'm not at my lake at home, as you can see. I'm actually at a house in the child's edition. We did some yard work and I just took a deep breath. I'm kind of tired, so I sat down to read this to you guys before I finish up. So here is chapter 2 of Charlotte's Web. Here we go. Chapter 2 is called Wilbur. Fern loved Wilbur more than anything. She loved to play with him, to feed him, and to put him to bed. Every morning, as soon as she got up, she warmed his milk, tied his bib on, and even held the bottle for him. Every afternoon, when the school bus stopped in front of her house, she jumped out and ran to the kitchen to fix a bottle for him. She fed him again at supper time and again just before going to bed. Miss Arble gave him a feeding around noontime each day whenever Fern was away at school. Wilbur loved his milk and was never happier than when Fern was warming up a warm bottle for him. He would stand and gaze up, looking at her with adoring eyes. For the first few days of his life, Wilbur was allowed to live in a box near the stove in the kitchen. Then, when Miss Arable complained, he was moved to a bigger box out in the woodshed. At 2 weeks of age, he was moved outdoors. It was apple blossom time. So sorry, my phone beeped, y'all, but I turned it off. It was apple blossom time, and the days were getting warmer. Mr. Arable fixed a yard, especially for Wilbur, under an apple tree, and gave him a large wooden box full of straw with a doorway cut in it so he could walk in and out as he pleased. Won't he be cold at night? Asked Fern. No, said Father. You watch and see what he does. Carrying a bottle of milk, Fern sat down under the apple tree inside the yard. Wilbur ran to her, and she held the bottle for him while he sucked. When he had finished the last drop, he grunted and walked sleepily into the box. Fern peered through the door. Wilbur was poking the straw with his snout. In a short time, he had dug a tunnel in the straw. He crawled into the tunnel and disappeared from sight, completely covered up with the straw. Fern was enchanted. What a good word. Y'all should use that word tonight. Fern was enchanted. It relieved her mind to know that her baby would sleep covered up and would stay warm. Every morning after breakfast, Wilbur walked out on the road with Fern and waited with her until the bus came. She would wave goodbye to him, and he would stand and watch until the bus vanished around the turn. While Fern was in school, Wilbur was shut up inside his yard. But as soon as she got home in the afternoon, she would take him out, and he would follow her all around the place. If she went into the house, Wilbur went in too. If she went upstairs, Wilbur waited for her on the bottom step until she came down again. If she took her doll for a walk in the doll carriage, Wilbur followed along, and Fern would pick him up and put him in the carriage right alongside the doll. He liked this, and if he was very tired, he would close his eyes and go to sleep under the baby blanket. He looked so cute when his eyes were closed because his lashes were so long. The doll would close her eyes too, and Fern would wheel the carriage very slowly and smoothly so that she did not wake up her two infants. One warm afternoon, Fern and Avery put on bathing suits and went down to the brook for a swim. Wilbur tagged along Fern's heels. When she waded into the brook, Wilbur went in with her. He found the water quite cold, too cold for his liking. So while the children swam and played and splashed water at each other, Wilbur amused himself along the mud along the edge of the brook, where it was warm and moist and delightfully sticky and ooey and gooey. You guys can say that. Every day was a happy day, and every night was peaceful. Wilbur was what farmers called a spring pig, which simply meant that he was born in the springtime. When he was 5 weeks old, Mr. Arable now said that he was big enough to sell and would have to be sold. Fern broke down and wept, but her father was firm about it. Wilbur's appetite had really grown, and he was beginning to eat scraps of food in addition to milk. Mr. Arable was not willing to provide food for him any longer. He had already sold Wilbur's 10 brothers and sisters. He's got to go, Fern, he said. You've had your fun raising a baby pig, but Wilbur's not a baby any longer, and he has to be sold. Call up the Zuckermans, said Miss Arable to Fern. Your Uncle Homer sometimes raises a pig, and if Wilbur goes to live there, you can walk down the road and you can visit with him as often as you like. How much money should I ask for him? Fern wanted to know. Well, said her father, he's a runt. Tell your Uncle Homer you've got a pig you'll sell for $6 and see what he says. It was soon arranged. Fern phoned and got her Aunt Edith, and her Uncle Edith hollered for her Uncle Homer. Whenever Homer came in from the barn, he was ready to talk to Fern. When he heard the price was only $6, he said he would buy the pig the next day. The next day, Wilbur was taken from his home under the apple tree and went to live in a manure pile in the cellar of the Zuckerman's barn. There was one picture I wanted to show you guys. There they are in the little baby carrier. Okay, so that was chapter 2. Y'all discuss what you think about 1 and 2, and we'll do 3 tomorrow. I love you all. Bye.